In this video, I want to give you my top 5 tips for learning songs and memorizing songs faster. There is no one that this couldn't help if this is something that you struggle with, and all areas of your guitar playing will be improved if we can memorize songs and get them under your fingers a little bit quicker. The video you're about to see was actually recorded at last Monday's live stream, which I do every Monday at 6 p.m. UK time using this exact camera setup. So it looks and sounds exactly like this. I wanted to show you that. Let me show you that video now, but be aware I do mention things such as the Andy Guitar Discord and Open Mic Sundays. These are things that I offer in my membership. The link to that membership is at the top of the description, and I'm going live in 2 hours from the release of this video. We do it every Monday, 6 p.m. UK time, but let's get on with the rest of the video now and tell you my song memorizing tips. 5 tips to learn songs quicker. This is for when you're learning anything on the website. This is for when you're learning songs on the Open Mic Night Sundays, whatever. Tip number 1, decide what am I learning this for? Are you learning it for an Open Mic Night Sunday, and this is going to be one that you're going to play and that's what you're looking to? Often I learn a song, or I often teach songs in the beginner's course especially. Most of those songs were chosen on because of the chord progression and maybe one chord change. I'm trying to make sure you can change to that B7, for example. I'm trying to make sure you can do that because that B7 chord is a real gateway to doing bar chords. And if you can do a B7 chord, you can probably do bar chords and power chords easier. It just gets you starting to use your little finger. It also really helps with this G chord. I'm slightly out of tune there, don't I? But I often learn songs just to learn one little bit of it, and that's the only thing I'm actually studying. So, you know, what is the one that's a bit similar to one that came up recently, actually, was, you know, what's the Don't Look Back in Anger chords? What's that chord? Okay, and it's an E7 over. It's an E7 over G sharp. So it's 4, X, so not played, 0, 4, 0, 0. And it goes down and it might just be that. It might be that the amount of times that I've come back to, you know, some harder bits. What's a tutorial I've got coming up? Probably the hardest solo that I can play is the Sweet Home Alabama solo. That's among like the most tricky stuff I can play. I didn't play perfect. There are other ones as well, but the bit that I always came back to, and the only bit I was practicing for that bit, of course, because it's like that's the cycling lick, that's the repetitive lick. I had to come back to it a lot. Sometimes I learn a song and I'm like, oh, what's that one? What's that one chord progression? But before you really dig in and start learning it, what do you actually want to get from it? You're just getting the bare bones of it. You know what goal you have in mind per song, or what goals are possible. Second tip, get the broad strokes first of all. Don't look at the detail on that and be looking at every note on the tab. If you can help it, broad brush strokes. Don't look to nail the strumming pattern first of all. Get the broad chord progression the broad moves under your fingers. For example, again, what's the basic chord progression? If it's got 7th chords and dominant chords and loads of stuff, is it C, D? How many bars of each? All that sort of things. Here's a really important one. Does it change a lot, or is it super repetitive? Super repetitive songs are the quickest to learn because once you've got one bit, even if it's difficult, you've got it. It repeats. Super repetitive songs are also really good for looper pedals because you can then build layers up. For example, case in point. That's another tutorial that I filmed earlier, which was... let me create this again. This is Tame Impala. Just as an example. That's the whole song. I just built it up there from a bass line, chord progression, and then just literally a 4-note lead line. Hang on, if I can remember. There it is. Just 1, 2, 3, 4. Repeat, repeat, repeat. So that's the first two. Does it have many sections or does it have a simple structure? So songs can have like riff 1, riff 2, riff 3, and then the song starts. That's a lot of Foo Fighters songs. A lot harder when you got a lot of riffs to learn in one song. It's like learning 4 or 5 or however many riffs there are in one song. And finally, does it sound within your ability or is there something new? Is this a song that sounds within my ability? Frankly, should kind of be the first question. So then you can manage your expectations with it. Really huge. And as I said, I'll share all of this in a breakdown on the Discord. But I won't share my screen on this one. But do that process that I've just mentioned because it saves time as choosing... Hang on. Do this at the same time as choosing your goal to save time. That's what I meant to say. So listen to it, get the broad strokes, and then decide what your goal is for that song. Number 3. With training, you can learn 90% of a song just by listening without having to have a guitar in your hand. That's typically the skill that I've got, but it is also something that came a little bit easier to me than I know it did to, for example, even my brother. So that's something to bear in mind. But what's the why can I learn so many songs and remember them and stuff like that? 90% of a song I can figure out just by listening. What is the final 10%? That 10% could be just the faster bit and I just have to learn that bit or figure out what the notes are. But most of the time, that 10% question is literally, what's the first note? What key is it in? What is that first chord? And that is something called relative pitch, which is what I have, which is a learnable, trainable skill. And you'd start on that skill by covering the intervals module. If you go to the courses section and just type intervals or ear training, there's 2 full modules on that. Do the first one first. That will start you on that. There's other if you go on the videos page and search ear training or learn songs by ear, there'll be other helpful stuff on there. But where is it in a course? It's on the courses page. Perfect pitch is what people that can't work out songs by ear think that people have that can. And it's not. Perfect pitch is very different. Perfect pitch is going, what note is that? Without any reference, like any visual reference, or without you having a guitar to figure it out. Very different thing. Don't get sucked into thinking that you don't have a good ear for music. You're just untrained, basically. You need to learn relative pitch. You need to learn your intervals. You need to be able to hear a fifth, a fourth, a major third, an octave, a major seventh, a dominant seventh, a ninth, for example. And then practice doing that with songs. Number 4, if you're choosing a difficult song, line it up with other goals. So when you've got one big goal, which is, I really want to play this song. Okay, great. That's what you've decided you want to do. Can we line that up with other things so that you're not totally detouring away from the main bulk of your goals? For example, when I'm practicing fingerstyle, I've rarely got one fingerstyle song on the go at once. And at the moment, for example, I'm not at all. I'm not playing fingerstyle at all. When I come back to it, I dive into that world and I have my repertoire that I know. I have a few songs that I come back to that keeps my skill level high. And I have songs that I'm learning that I'm going to do a video on that I just want to progress myself with. And I also have a bunch of techniques and exercises that I have to keep on top of while I'm doing that. But that all lines up with fingerstyle world. At the moment, it's working out better for me lining up with a bunch of stuff that I just want to stick to electric guitar at the moment. So lead guitar and riff playing and song repertoire and learning songs by bands that I've never covered before is way more useful. I'll be checking in with the comments. I'm on my last point now. I just want to finish up with this trail of thought. So a couple of points. If you're choosing a different song, line it up with other goals. If it's a niche genre, perfect. Double up the skill with learning about that genre. If you're doing a deep dive on blues, learn your blues techniques, but also learn about the history of blues, the recommended listening, where it comes from, what equipment those guys had. And it will deepen your knowledge while you're also increasing your skills. If you want to learn to shred, great, but double it up with listening to some shred albums and learning about the stories of shred players and what they went through to learn their stuff. For example, if you want to learn shred, one that always comes up is the 10-hour practice routine of Steve Vai. That was always legendary in the 90s when I was reading guitar magazines. And I think that really, that dictates your goals, really. Or at least manages expectations. Finally, number 5. For maximum progress, find what difficult skill comes easier to you than other people and do more of that. For me, this is working out songs by ear. It is also recording and using GarageBand because I'm fine at making drum parts, recording, producing, EQing, mastering. Like, you can make a self-released an album on Spotify. If you search out Andy Crowley on Spotify, you'll find it. I literally did that because I knew it was part of my skill set and I knew I could and I'd worked towards that. Legato playing is a huge one for me. Doing stuff legato playing sounds a lot better when we have a bit more gain. Literally do this with one hand. How many of you guys have tried to learn Thunderstruck and you've done it with all the picking? Do that our way. But this tends to come easier to anyone that has tried learning lead guitar for quite a long time. Or for a sustained period of time, I should say, not a long time. But this. Someone commented earlier, I just can't quite play fast enough. Well, just learn two-hand tapping. Van Halen style. We've got the lesson on the videos. Type Van Halen into my videos page. You'll find my two-hand tapping Van Halen style. Hey presto, you can play fast. Can't play everything as fast as that because this uses legato playing, hammer-ons and flick-ons, two-hand tapping techniques. But you can play fast. And that tended to be something that worked better for me, or that I got loads more success in loads quicker than, for example, other things like picking. For me, picking is really difficult. I always found getting the accuracy of picking and stuff. It's the thing that's holding back the Johnny Marr player studies, to be honest. It's a few riffs I'm Well, that's an essential one, but it's a lot of picking. But also jamming with others in kind of common genres comes easier to me than I know it does other people. I just see it as, it was daunting at the start, but I've always been that guy who kind of gets people together and can get music out of them, really. So yeah, for maximum progress, find what difficult skill comes easier to you than others and do more of that. In some ways, this is also get out of your own way. Drop your preconceptions, learn from others, and find whatever works for you. You've got to discover it before you know it's going to work. You're not going to know what works for you unless you try a whole bunch of stuff. Right, I now have a lot of comments to check out, and I don't know whether we're going to be able to, but I will do my best. I hope you've enjoyed that video. More info about the Andy Guitar membership and the regular live streams that we offer is at the top of the description below. Just click the link, and I will see you over there. Bye-bye.